Hello everyone, I'm Alejandro from La Mesa, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Hostil Hostal. Hostil Hostal is a game in which you take the role of a tour guide responsible for the well-being of a group of tourists who travel to a mysterious rocky valley. Unfortunately, a landslide has made it impossible for your clients to leave town as planned, and they will have to extend their visit for a few more days. It is your responsibility to find a place for them to stay. However, the only available lodging in town can be found in the infamous Hostil Hostal, a place known for its intriguing past and continuous deterioration. Preparing a game of Hostil Hostal is quite easy. First, we have to assemble the inn itself. The inn will have a lobby and then a number of rooms equal to the number of players, always creating a two-story structure with rooms on top of each other, but not on top of the lobby. Rooms are chosen randomly, and depending on the difficulty you wish to play, you could choose either side A for first-time players or B for those looking for more of a challenge. Roll deterioration dice equal to the number of rooms being used, and place each die on the top right-hand corner of each room to show the current state of wear. Each player receives 4 guess meeples, a score marker to be placed on number 15 of the slumber track, a deck of cards of their corresponding color. Players will set aside their card in their deck showing Mr. Tools and shuffle the rest of the cards, creating their own player deck. At this point, players will decide if they want to play the short version of the game that goes on for 3 nights or the full experience that extends for a total of 5 nights and turn the lobby tile to its corresponding side. Place the round marker on night 1 and set the misfortune die to the side within reach. The first player will be the last person who most recently had a bad night of sleep. This person will take the first player marker. With all this in place, we're ready to begin. In Hostil Hostal, the players will take turns accommodating their guests around the different rooms in the inn in order to keep them well rested and safe. Each room offers different levels of comfort depending on its occupancy and the degree of wear and tear. There are other events that affect how much guests are able to rest, and these are represented by cards played in secret as the rounds progress. Rest is represented by slumber points, and the player with the most slumber points at the end of the final round will be the winner. Each of the rounds in Hostil Hostal is divided into 4 simple phases, and they go as follows. Phase 1, Dusk. As the sun sets and bedtime creeps along, all players draw 3 cards from their deck and along with the Mr. Tool card, form a hand. If a player runs out of cards, they just reshuffle their discard pile and form a new deck. Phase 2, Night. As the night arrives, guests are feeling tired and want to turn in. It is your job as their guide to find the best accommodations for your clients. Starting with the first player and continuing clockwise, each player must take one of the following actions. 1. Place a guest. Take an unplayed guest meeple and place it in an unoccupied bed in a room of their choosing, covering the large number in the center of the bed. Meeples have 2 sides. One of them shows a mark that is the sedated side of the meeple. Make sure they're placed showing the unmarked side up. 2. Play a card. If a player has at least 2 cards on their hand, then they can play 1 card face down in a room where they have at least one of their own guests staying. A player can play multiple cards in a room in separate turns, and there's no limit to the number of cards that can be played to a room. 3. Move a guest. If a player has at least 2 cards in their hand, they can discard one of their cards onto their own discard pile to be able to move a bedded guest to another bed in a room or to the lobby. Previously played cards will stay in the room and are not to be moved with the guest. 4. Pass. If a player has played all of their guests, they can pass. However, if they have at least 2 cards in their hand, they can play in their next turn. If all players pass in the same turn, the night phase ends. Bonus action, Spy. Before or after their mandatory action, players have the chance to take the Spy action. To spy, a player may spend 1 slumber point to be able to see all of the cards of the same color in a room. Then they place them back face down. Players are able to take this action as many times as they want, but they have to spend 1 slumber point every time they take a peek at the cards. Phase 3, Dawn. As the sun comes up, the events of the prior night are revealed and we get to see how much the guests rested last night. The following steps are followed in order. Number 1. Reveal. All of the cards in the room are turned face up and every copy of a repeated card is discarded, with the exception of Mr. Tool's cards. Number 2. Order. Cards are organized in ascending order. Number 3. Resolve. Starting with number 1, all cards are resolved one by one, and then continuing in ascending order until all cards have been resolved. The person who played the card gets to decide whether or not the effect of the card takes place, unless the card is marked with a lock. In that case, the effect is resolved regardless. The effect of the cards are immediately updated in the slumber track. Each card is discarded on its owner's pile except for Mr. Tools, which remains in the room. Number 4. Rest. Calculate the amount of slumber received by the guest in the room, one room at a time. Add up the number displayed in each of the unoccupied beds or rugs in the room, and then multiply it by the number of non-sedated guests owned by each player in the room. Number 5. Wear. The first player rolls the misfortune die to determine if damages in the hostel affect the guests staying in the different rooms. If the result of the die is higher than the current wear state of the room shown in each of the red deterioration dice, then all of the non-sedated guests lose the difference in slumber points. Phase 4. Day. During the day, Mr. Tools will work efficiently repairing the damage the room suffered. Follow these instructions. 1. Wear. Check each room for deterioration depending on the number of guests who spend the night there, and subtract points from the die as follows. 5 guests, you subtract 3 points. 2 to 4 guests, you subtract 2 points. 0 or 1 guest, you subtract 1 point. The lowest value a die can show is always 1. 2. Wake up. Each player returns their guests back to their supply. 3. Improvements. In each room where Mr. Tools is present, an improvement tile is drawn from the improvement deck. The player who play Mr. Tools decide which side of the tile they want to use. If multiple players play Mr. Tool, then whoever is closer to the first player gets to decide which side of the tile to use. The tile is placed on top of the room in such a way that the rugs are on top of each other and partially covering the left side of the room, showing new beds with updated slumber values. If the room already has an improvement tile, this one will be discarded at the bottom of the deck and replaced by a new one. 4. End of the day. The night marker advances, and the first player marker is passed to the player with the least slumber points. This player chooses who will be the first player in the next round. Each player discards the remaining cards, keeping Mr. Tools in their hand. End of the game. The last round of the game starts on the 3rd or the 5th sunrise, depending on the number of rounds agreed upon by the players at the beginning of the game. The winner is the player with the most slumber points, according to the track. In the event of a tie, the player with the most cards in their hand is the winner. If the tie remains, then players can either 1. Share the victory, 2. Play a rematch, or 3. Lay down on the table and see who falls asleep first. And that's how you play Hostil Hostal.